Nearly 2 years ago, on August the 6th, 2024, 6 brave young people took a repurposed prison van, crashed through these walls here, these fences, and got into this building and started to destroy drones.
We are here to try and save the Palestinian people by our international movement of solidarity against their demise. They are facing an existential period in their history, and I think we do have to look at it as urgent as that.
Elbit Systems is Israel's largest arms manufacturer. It is responsible for producing armoured drones, bombs and other weapons used to murder Palestinians.
It's behind these gates that weapons and technology are manufactured that have turned the Gaza Strip into hell itself. Weapons built here have slaughtered innocent Palestinian men, women and children in their thousands to fulfill the aims of Israeli genocidal expansion and British US imperialism. This is mass death for profit, orchestrated by an apartheid state armed to the teeth by British manufacturing.
Bristol is one of the largest arms manufacturing cities in the whole of Europe. Not only are we home to the infamous Elbit Systems behind me, but we also have BAE Systems, the dominant arms contractor in Europe, Rolls-Royce at the end of the road, which doesn't just manufacture cars, but it also makes engine parts for fighter jets, including the F-35. We have Airbus and the MOD.
They make drones, they make engines, they make surveillance systems, they make computer databases, electronic warfare, command and control. They are a system of death, and their product is chaos and murder.
This is why it is not only imperative to shut Elbit Systems down, but to dismantle the entire infrastructure of imperialism. This factory exists within a market system of competition. What is bad for Elbit is good for BAE Systems. What is bad for BAE Systems is good for Rolls-Royce. It is not enough to simply turn one sword into one plough. The entire system must be transformed for the public good. And the only thing that can achieve that is a mass movement against the politics that make these factories of death possible.
Earlier this month, Elbit Systems itself boasted that it had helped to identify 1,000 targets a day for Israel during its genocide in Gaza and its illegal attacks on Lebanon.
On average, one child every single hour has been killed in Palestine by Israeli forces. And the reason every single person is here today is because we know that the responsibility for that lies in large part in these arms manufacturers we see in Bristol.
The UK government recently announced its defence investment plan, which will see an eye-watering £300 billion on military spending over the next 4 years. In addition, there would be $5 billion for drone technology, $8 billion for fighter jets, $11 billion for weapon stockpiles, and $64 billion for nuclear weapons. Britain's military spending has increased by 32% since 2016 and is higher now than during the Cold War.
Right across Britain, there are factories like this one manufacturing weapons for Israel. Elbit and its 16 subsidiary companies and other arms companies. In many cases, that includes components for the deadly F-35 fighter jets that are used routinely to drop 2,000-pound bombs on Palestinian civilians, destroying neighbourhoods, hospitals and other facilities.
We thought the F-35 was going to be a kind of sideshow in what was going on. The Israelis already had their F-15s and their F-16s and their Chinooks and their Apaches. Easily enough weaponry to massacre innocent children. But it turns out that the F-35 was at the heart of that destruction. It was the preferred platform. The only limitation on the F-35, and the death it was causing was, as they call it, availability, spare parts. And do you know where their spare parts came from? Places like this, places like Rolls-Royce, places like Bristol.
I have to say, this campaign started against Elbit in Brighton about 25 years ago.
Elbit Systems, in addition to its drone technology, which has deliberately targeted and killed civilians, killed aid workers, including aid workers from this city that went to Palestine to provide aid. What did the UK government do in response to that? Nothing at all. So we have to continue to speak out. Elbit Systems provides the targeting system that Israel uses to exterminate Palestinians in Gaza. They have already identified 850,000 targets in Gaza, out of a population of a little over 2 million. We have to make sure that Elbit is shut down, that the war machine is shut down.
This area, when you look at the genocide in Gaza, look around Bristol, these places are connected. But they're not just connected by weapons. They're connected by solidarity and love, and we're seeing that today.
We can't defend these factories because they provide jobs. We've got to go and say, you should be telling these factories to change the nature of the jobs that they offer to the people to make a decent living.
I'm a teacher, and every single day I look at a classroom of my students, 25 students, and think every single day in Palestine, a classroom of students has been murdered every single day for the last 3 years.
The University of Bristol has millions of pounds worth of research ties with the arms industry, including BAE Systems, and it's one of several UK universities that has recently committed to further investment in such deals. This is not the investment we should be making in young people's futures.
Companies responsible for this genocide being seen as sort of social enterprises or quasi-charities by providing these opportunities for underprivileged children in the UK to learn how to make bombs themselves in 10 years' time. The same way we saw sort of the army 10 years ago targeting white working class boys in towns, what we now see is BAE Systems at every single careers fair in every single school and college across the country. I found out yesterday that as part of this BAE Systems Careers Fair, where they visited 5,000 schools speaking to children as young as 4 years old, they actually hired a CBeebies presenter to run this STEM, to run this sort of STEM roadshow that they went across schools. I just want to give a shout out to a fantastic campaign, Disarm Education, who's using freedom of information requests in schools to essentially collect information, see the scale of what's going on here, what links schools have to these companies, and obviously supporting people to oppose it where it's happening.
This was the week that Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. Last week, before he entered Downing Street, before he started shuffling the deck chairs around the cabinet table, he issued an apology and said that the government had got it wrong. We didn't need Andy Burnham to tell us, because we have always known.
None of this is set to change with the arrival of Andy Burnham into office this week. He's already sent an invitation to Donald Trump to come to Manchester and has approved the continued use of RAF bases for the US military to carry out its ongoing illegal attacks on Iran.
The Labour government will not listen until we force them to. I have seen some welcome the incoming Prime Minister Andy Burnham, current Prime Minister Andy Burnham's apology for the hurt caused by Labour's stance on the genocide. An apology cannot bring back the dead. An apology is not justice. An apology does not suspend arms sales. An apology does not guarantee an end to apartheid. An apology does not land Benjamin Netanyahu in a cell in The Hague where he belongs. Burnham cannot even bring himself to call this a genocide. His statements are only a mealy-mouthed attempt to win back voters who are sickened by his party's complicit in the genocide. have signalled how far they are willing to go to achieve justice for Palestine, and it is not nearly far enough.
The UK is very much complicit in this illegal war. His appointments to his cabinet also ring serious alarm bells. Wes Streeting will now be in charge of defence, an area he has zero experience in. He spent his time as Health Secretary defending Israel against NHS workers who dared to speak out against genocide.
So Burnham clearly wants us to think that he has turned the page on Starmer's moral bankruptcy. But his statements so far are totally inadequate. We demand action. If he really wants to break with Starmer's shameful legacy, he should shut Elbit down. Stop arming Israel. Impose widespread sanctions against, including a complete ban on all trade with Israel's illegal settlements.
And our government must, this is our target, our government must be made to withdraw from its complicity in its acceptance of the impunity of Israel and stop arming Israel entirely and actually support the Palestinian people in creating their own land, their own country, their own future.
We've seen students in East London in the news, hundreds of students boycotting an assembly from Wes Streeting because they didn't want a genocide enabler and an Israel supporter in their school.
And he must reverse the spiteful use of authoritarian, anti-terror and anti-protest laws to target those standing up for Palestinian rights.
And has supported cutting welfare in favour of military spending. And then there's John Healey, a former defence minister who resigned because not enough public money was being spent on the military. And he is now in charge of the public purse as our new treasurer.
Israel is becoming a pariah state as well as an apartheid state. And that's what we've been trying to do for the last 30 years. Make everyone who has conscience actually accept that what Israel is doing is making it a pariah state.
So as we look past the destruction caused by this company and its products, let's look to that brighter future.
I am addressing you as the Secretary of the Bristol Apartheid-Free Zone, Europe's largest grassroots boycott of Israeli produce. For the last 2 years, we have gone door to door asking people to boycott Israel in solidarity with Palestine. So far, over 7,000 Bristolians have pledged to boycott. Over 100 shops have pledged to boycott. And we have helped set up apartheid-free zones in every corner of this country.
The world is acknowledging the torture, the intimidation, the murder, the theft of land and homes. And I think the Israelis should ask themselves, what are they going to say when they read the history books of the future, which talk about their activities?
The question of where we are going to find the money never applies to military spending. There is always public money available for defence, but we can never find the money to properly fund the welfare of our society. No money for the NHS, no money for education, no money for housing, no money for public transport, and no money for wages. Always money for war.
The goal here is not just to create a boycott of Israel. The goal is a construction of a mass movement against imperialism. As the working class in Gaza is murdered, so too is the working class in the United Kingdom oppressed, while at the same time made complicit in that same murder. In a country desperately in need of good quality jobs, precious resources are wasted constructing instruments of mass death. We want good jobs, manufacturing what people need for the emancipation of the entire working class, at home and abroad. Not a factory that enables genocide in the Middle East and brings shame on the city of Bristol.
Right from the start of Stop the War campaign, we were there, actually, when they first formed after 9/11, to put Palestine on the agenda, because at first it wasn't so. We had to fight to put Palestine there, and the link with the Stop the War is very important, And it's important that we keep that going. And I think we've built a really solid movement. Of course, with the Palestinian communities, with the Muslim communities, and communities of all faith. So it's unity, really, that I want to emphasize.
What we stand for is for an alternative to this. An end to the genocide, yes, but freedom for Palestine. The ability to sit beneath their own olive trees, go up their own mountains, sit by their beaches in safety, earn a living, travel, raise a family.
We've got to stop that genocide. We've got to stop the ethnic cleansing. And so what's needed is a truly united movement which unites everybody in this country who is prepared to stand up for the human rights, the political rights, and the national rights of the Palestinian people, and to stop our government's complicity.
Fatima Zainab Rajwani, she was one of the first of the Filton 6. We're now on to Filton 25, as you know. All 6, again, as you know, were not found guilty of anything at their first trial, but the government fixed it so that they would get some guilty verdicts on the second trial. Yet still two of the Filton 6 were not found guilty and are now free. Fatima Zainab Rajwani was not one of those. So having been found guilty of charges that were nothing to do with terrorism, they then sentenced her as if she was a terrorist, and she is now in prison. Shame on our government. Shame. Few things about Fatima. She is still now only 21. She is an excellent poet, and Fatima would, if she could be here, would be the first to say that what she has suffered is nothing compared to what our brothers and sisters in Gaza have been suffering. Anyway, I'm going to share, as I said, a poem of Fatima's. It's called "At Night I Dream of a Love So Wide and So Deep It Frees Us All." Here we go. I write to you in my state of love and grief. At night I dream of a love so wide and so deep it frees us all. It stretches across continents to fill the space between my brown body and yours. At night I dream of a love that could reach out and keep you safe. I wish the love I dream of was enough. I wish the love I dream of would hold your grief the same way that our silence holds violence. When there's nothing else to write about, I write about love. Because there's no life worth living, no strength worth perception, if not for love. The kind of love that forces you to witness. The kind of love that aches and expands across seas and cities. The kind of love that does not stay silent. Love is not patient or kind, but relentless and harsh. I dream of a love so encompassing it hurts. A love that does not make us less afraid, but a love that makes us less compromising. At night, I dream of a love so wide and so deep, it frees us all. When dawn breaks, I dream of waking up to a love that is not new, but old and ancient and unforgiving. The type of love that stands to action. There is no greater act of love than standing uncompromising between all which you know that destroys and all which could be rebuilt anew.
Every time a drone flies, a neighborhood in Gaza dies. Every time the factory lies, a little child in Gaza dies. There is only one solution. Shut down